everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
Vince, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you, Cap?
I'm pretty good. It's time for another full half hour of comic book talk.
All right. Ba-ba-ba-da-da. Comic talk.
Wow, you just wrote, well, forget that old theme song we always used to use. That's a winner, right? That's sold, yes.
We're shaking hands right now.
So, Vince always has to commentate on whatever we're doing off screen that no one's going to see.
Because they can't see it.
I know. You think they have to have a fully immersive experience.
It's like a radio show. No, don't pull the pin out of that grenade. Don't throw it at me. Oh, you threw it at me.
So today's question comes from Movie Geek 17, and I'm going to read this question, and we're actually going to streamline this a little bit and use this to jump into another related topic, but we're going to talk about this too. So he says, I've been a long-time listener, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Marvel's recent sling of cancellations. I recently have heard that Punisher Max is getting a natural ending, but other titles such as Alpha Flight, Iron Man 2.0, X-23, All-Winter Squad, and apparently Black Panther are getting the axe as well. What are your thoughts on these cancellations? Do you think the DC relaunch is affecting their sales, or is it some other cause that we aren't aware of yet? So, we're going to talk about Marvel's recent cancellations, but we're also going to use this to springboard into this question. And that question is, why is it that readers seem to, on the whole, not be entirely, interested in jumping onto not as very well known titles, titles that aren't Spider-Man, X-Men, or Avengers, because that's what's selling. That's and I've been reading a lot of comments on some articles about this very thing where people are, or where readers are saying, Marvel seems to be getting to where all they're going to publish are, things related to the Avengers or X-Men or Spider-Man, and you see all these books that seem to be, even if they're not Avengers titles, they're related to Avengers. Marvel seems to be Avengers land right now. And then, some people think that's a problem. Some people say, well, they're, that's what's selling, that's what's making them money, so doesn't it make sense that that's what they're publishing? So we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So first of all, do any of those titles getting canceled bother you, Vince?
Actually, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, there's only one of them that I'm actually reading.
Yeah, and that's Punisher
Can you
Max,
guess which one that is?
And that one is getting canceled in the very place it was supposed to. It's not even getting canceled, it's finishing. That's different.
That's the thing, is that
we need to make that distinction. That's different.
When a book gets a chance to finish, then you have a satisfying ending. And let's be perfectly honest here. Punisher Max, the Max line of Punisher books anyway, has ended before. I mean, after Garth Ennis left the book ended, and then they started publishing miniseries of Punisher Max.
I don't think anybody expected that it would necessarily come back when it did either.
I was surprised when they even went into the Bullseye storyline, and then the Elektra storyline.
Yeah.
I didn't think that stuff was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I'm very pleased about where it's been and where it's going and where it's going to end, probably. I'm fairly certain I'll enjoy it.
And honestly, this is a testament to how good that book is. I was kind of picking up on this book is coming to a close soon. Mm-hmm. Just reading it. Not even looking into, is it supposed to end at a certain issue? I didn't know if that was happening or not. I didn't look it up. But as I was reading the most recent issue, I was like, this is winding down.
Yeah, there's a very fatalistic tone to it that I think starts in the Bullseye storyline.
And especially during the Frank storyline.
Yeah, I mean, because the Frank storyline, I was surprised they even did that, because I thought the point was to just either kill off the Punisher or just to keep going and just show, like, this man's mental end.
I thought it needed it, though. I mean, I thought, or at least once I finished it, I was like, oh, I kind of can't imagine this without this now.
That's the thing, is that you don't necessarily... If they were to end any one of these books, that does not mean that the character is going to never be used again. I mean, of course, they're killing off Hellboy, and they're going to print more Hellboy stories.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Marvel, generally, when they cancel a title like this, if there are characters that enough people were big fans of, they'll find another place to use them. X-23 is about to be in another ongoing. It's either a mini or not. No, I'm sorry. It's a mini. There's a mini Venom event. There's a little mini event that's about Venom that she's apparently supposed to be in. I think which I read about today. So anyway, it's not like these characters are completely going away necessarily. And I don't know about Alpha Flight. I don't know if they're going to do anything with those people. And I honestly haven't been reading that book. But Alpha Flight's weird because, and this is what I read. Sorry if I got my wires crossed on this, but I think what the deal is with Alpha Flight is that it was supposed to be a mini. And then they decided to make it an ongoing because the initial numbers were pretty good. And then the numbers started backing off again, so then they changed their minds and not only decided they were going to cancel it, but they were going to cancel it even before the mini was going to be over. I think it's only on like issue 5.
You know, Alpha Flight, I don't think has been one of those things that's hung around for very long whenever it's been around.
Not general, I don't think, although...
I mean, aside from its core book back in the day, I mean...
Well, right, yeah.
There's not a lot of clamor for it. You know, I think there's one thing that... here's another example that I think is okay. When you look at the Ultimate books, the book that was being published about Wolverine's son, Ultimate Mutant, or what was it called? Ultimate something? I don't know. I didn't read it because I wasn't interested.
Son besides Dakin?
Well, in the Ultimate Universe...
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
They had Wolverine's son. And his book got canceled, and they're going with these main 3 series with the Hawkeye mini. And Wolverine's son is now in Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Ultimate X-Men number 3, I think, got published came out this past week.
Right.
And now we have that. So, you know.
Oh, okay. I haven't read that issue yet, so that's why I didn't know that. All right.
But, you know, he was even in one of the first 2 issues, just a very small cameo.
I must not have even caught that that's who that was. I haven't been reading Ultimate, and I just started those, so I didn't know that's who that was.
But, yeah, I didn't read that stuff. But anyway, you know, that's my point, is that these characters will be around, so don't necessarily be worried that these things are going away, that you'll never see them again. Punisher Max will be back in some way.
I think that it's less that so many people are worried about individual titles. I mean, except for the ones that they were reading. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are people who are like, "Oh man, don't cancel that. That was one of my favorite books." I know there's huge X-23 fans. I'm sure there's people that would have much rather seen Dakin go away or something else that's still at the bottom of the barrel money wise, where they're like, "Oh well, you could have canceled frickin' Dakin. Why did you keep X-23?" I heard some people say that. But anyway, regardless of all that, I think that the real question here is if Marvel's shooting themselves in the foot a little bit by canceling so many at once and calling attention to themselves. Because it's not just the books he mentioned. Other things, since those initial articles have since come out. They're canceling Ghost Rider, and they're canceling... what else was it? I'm sorry, I'll think of it. There was another book. Oh, I'm sorry, Black Panther. They are canceling Black Panther, and I think he said he wasn't sure, but yeah, that's definitely actually getting canceled. So, and the thing is, I think that if this had all happened 3 or 4 months ago, it wouldn't have been as perplexing to people. I mean, it wouldn't have seemed like such a warning sign. But we've had the New 52. And I think people, as he said, are worried that DC is really hurting Marvel right now. I don't know if that's true or not. I know that there have been some articles that have come out recently that have said that part of why this is happening is because Marvel's not doing real well financially right now, at least on the comic side, and that this is actually affecting the comics. But the question is can we attribute that to DC? I don't know. What I would say is I'm not sure they've been handling the marketing quite right since the New 52. I'm not sure they've really stepped it up.
Yeah. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's such a bad thing that they're canceling books at this all at once. Maybe they're just looking at it as a way of fostering new interest. Like, oh, they're canceling books? Well, maybe we should pay more attention, because nobody wants to see Marvel go away.
Well, I don't think anybody's worried that they're just going to go away. I think they're worried that they're just going to publish nothing but the same, but like 5 books of the same 3 titles.
I mean, and that's fair. But
does that bother you? I mean, like, you being, again, I know we've talked about this before. I'm not trying to rake you over the coals or throw you under the bus, but
yeah.
but I mean, like, you know where I'm going with this. You being the kind of person that likes to pick up a title you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
It's gotta bug you when Marvel's publishing almost nothing but, three books and offshoots.
It makes it really easy to browse a comic shelf when you go Avengers, Spider-Man,
X-Men.
Done.
Yeah, exactly. and again, I know that's not all they have, but it sure feels like it sometimes. And certainly the Avengers bug has caught on to nearly the whole... thing, right?
I suppose maybe we should also be fair, is that
Spider-Man's new book? Do you know about this? The Avenging Spider-Man. Yeah, it's about Spider. Well, it's the only one issue's out, but I mean, it's about Spider-Man juggling his life being an Avenger.
Yeah, I read the intro to it, or not the intro, but the preview for it. It looked really good.
I liked it. I liked the first issue quite a bit.
But I can't say that it's necessarily a bad thing because,
Wow.
of course, it exists. There's still a Punisher comic there. Greg Rucka's still writing his.
Right.
And I think until... they still have some minor titles that are out there that are not the big core three.
I saw one commenter on an article that said, "Fret X-Men, or don't fret Alpha Flight fans. You've still got 6 X titles to choose from." I'm not sure that's fair.
Yeah, but they're still mutants.
It's
And
not
they're
like
still
those
X titles.
It's not like those characters there, but I can kind of see why you'd say that. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand why the person said it, but also if you're a big fan of Alpha Flight itself, because it's like the X book that's not an X book. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. I think that some of us get this little pocket of joy down in our hearts when we're reading something that's not like what everybody else is reading.
Oh, that's true.
So, I found something really cool.
Definitely have that with some things. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm saying that knowing that Resurrection Man is not going to last.
I think that's the thing is that a lot of people are like, oh, 52, that's a big event that, Marvel's not doing. Well, I think it would be a mistaken judgment to think that that every 52 is going to hang around.
Well, and we all know they're not. And there's a lot of speculation about which ones are going to get canceled. You can go look at the records of what the sales have been for DC in the last couple months and figure out, okay, that's doing awful. It's not going to make it, or it's not likely that it's going to make it. I think though that some people have questioned Marvel for not at least putting out some new titles in the midst of the New 52, and I understand that criticism.
And maybe they're doing this mass cancellation, if you want to call it that. The just giving themselves an opportunity to come out with some new books, get some fresh blood out there.
Do you think? Because I really doubt that's what's going on.
I mean, maybe. Well,
I really think it's them trying to clean out the bottom of their barrel. Although there are some books that are doing a little bit worse than some of these that they've not canceled yet, so that's somewhat perplexing.
I think they should have, especially the Alpha Flight thing. That's what's really strange to me. I understand if you're going to cancel a monthly book that's just been going for a while, and I understand if you're going to let a book end. But when you don't finish a storyline, like DC did this with The Shadow back in the late 80s, early 90s.
It's happened with lots of things, and I never understand it. It's like you guys really can't afford to just put out the last couple issues. And
you couldn't even just come out with a crappy last issue to just cap off the storyline? Nothing? You're just going to cut it off? That's really strange to me.
Well, it seems like a risk. It seems like you're potentially alienating readers that way.
I think that the comic industries think that the publishers within the comic industry think that it's a foregone conclusion that the readers that they have are going to stick around.
I believe you're right,
and which I think to some extent they're right.
To some extent, they're not right.
Well, that's the thing. I have a friend that actually he's basically stopped buying all new comic books at all because he's not interested in. No. He has stopped buying every new issue. The Fantastic Four, I think, was the last thing that he just decided. He said, you know what, I can't take this crap anymore.
I know people who are teetering on the brink, and that leads me into my theory of, or at least this is one potential theory, for why we've gotten to the point where the only things that seem to sell are those big giant titles. It's all price tag, Vince. I think. All I hear from people who are not sure if they want to keep reading current comics or aren't buying very many issues is they cost too much.
Yeah.
And so, doesn't it make sense that the people who aren't buying much are buying the main titles?
Yeah, why do you want to spend $4 an issue if you're buying something that may not be satisfying?
Well, not just satisfying. Just there are definitely people who read comics to keep up with the main stuff that's going on. They want to know what Marvel's doing on the whole, or what DC is doing on the whole. Why do you think Justice League went into a 4th and 5th printing? Do you see what I'm saying? Because that was the core title for the New 52.
I want to read Superman, Batman, and I want to read Green Lantern, but I only have $4 a month that I can really allocate to anything.
You're going to read Justice League.
So there you go.
That's it. So and the other thing is that a lot of these lesser titles, Marvel assumes that you're reading the main titles, and so they keep crossing them into stuff. I'm not saying that you have to read Spider-Man or Avengers or one of the main X titles to read some of their offshoots, but sometimes it's true. I don't think that the last 4 or 5 issues of Venom would have been nearly as satisfying if I wasn't also reading Spider Island. which is Amazing Spider-Man. That's one of the core books. So that's the thing, is that it's price tag. Let me ask you this, Vince. Here's a crazy notion, and I'm not gonna act like I know a whole ton about business. I know a little bit, but I not a ton. Let me ask you this question: do you think that they would do any worse? And this is going to sound preposterous, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you think that a company like DC or Marvel, regardless of the fact that people sometimes complain that they have too many titles as it is, would do any worse by, instead of having $4 price tags, I know DC has mostly 3, but Marvel has mostly 4, instead of having $4 price tags, slash it all to $2 price tags and double your book count? Would it be any different?
I don't know.
It would cost more to make them. I mean, of course. But the question is, would people buy more? Would people buy more books? Would they be spending the same amount of money, or is it that people are actually spending more money now because the books are higher? That's the question.
I will say,
I don't know.
As a consumer, I can't speak for the general market, but I would say as a consumer, I would definitely start picking up a couple more books that I'd been, especially like right there at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, I'm collecting specific few because they cost a lot.
Yeah.
But if I were to walk into a store and be like, oh crap, all these things are $2 now.
Yeah.
I would say, well, let me try out that one indie book I wasn't trying. And let me, maybe I'll take a chance on that mainstream book that I don't think that I'll like.
Bingo. That's my point. I don't think people are taking chances on the lesser-known titles and the ones that aren't selling as well because they don't want to take a chance spending what they feel is a higher dollar price tag. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, your average person who reads comic books, it's probably not their main hobby. That's the thing, is that there are definitely comic book readers who have other things they spend a lot more money on, and comics used to be a cheaper kind of thing to spend money on, right? So I mean, you could get by okay only reading 4, 5, 6, 7 titles a month. And these days, you have 7 titles a month. That's at least 24, if not $30.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you get above $20, that's a commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
And I've actually had the moment where I'm like, I want to buy this book. I want to see if it's good. But if I like it, that's a commitment because it's an ongoing title. And if I want to keep reading it, then that means I'm going to have to pay the premium. I mean, I'm not just buying a tester. So I think you have a terrific point.
Well, I mean, what happens when you're reading a book for a good long time, and then it gets to the end of the book and it actually has a conclusion, and you hate how it ended, and it ruins the whole rest of the book for you, and you bought every issue? I just think that would be a much less of a deal if you didn't feel like, if people didn't feel like they were spending more for comics than they feel like they're actually worth. I don't know if that's fair or not. I just think that most people feel like $3 is pushing it and $4 is too much. I've heard that from a lot of people.
I mean, maybe what they should do, and this sounds weird to say, I'm not even sure I should say it in this venue, but maybe they should start releasing some of their lesser-known titles as sort of market testers digitally.
Well, they're doing that. Some of them are about to start doing that.
I mean, why not just release the number ones just to see if people will be like, wow, number 1 was really cool, and then they go buy number 2.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to release number 2. You say, look for number 2 in stores.
DC is about to do something. They're gonna do another first. They're gonna break another record. They're going to, for the first time, release a digital issue before the print comes out of a monthly comic. This has been done with limited things, but it's never with like one-shots and miniseries, but it's never been done with a regular series. And guess what that is? The new run of Batman Beyond. Because we knew that wasn't going away forever. It was selling too well. When Batman Beyond didn't get re-solicited for the New 52, a lot of people who were reading that, and of course I've been reading it since the mini from last year, were like, oh God, where did it go? It's not going to get... Oh no, it's coming back, just wait. One of the first things DC said when they did the New 52 is, don't worry, not everything is gone, even if it's not being solicited for the 52. And it turns out that the reason that they didn't put it as part of the 52 is because they wanted to try this new digital thing where they were going to publish the digital one first, and then at some point later, a week or two or however long it is, the print comes out. But they're going to do that every month. It's always going to be the digital comes out first and then the print comes out.
For Batman Beyond.
For Batman Beyond.
I don't know. I'm so stuck in my ways. I guess I would still buy the original book.
So would I. So would I. I would still wait the 2 weeks.
And if somebody were to
read it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if somebody were to come up to me and say, "Hey, Vince, I want to tell you what happened in the digital book that I just read," I would knock you the hell out.
Thing is, I don't really know anybody who reads digital on a regular basis. Is part of the thing. Like, I wouldn't be worried about it. Yeah. I wouldn't be that worried about spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be worried about it either. I'm just saying, if somebody were to come up, like, I've actually physically thrown people out of the place that I lived because they tried to tell me something about a movie I intended to see.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I'm not joking when I say I mean, I threw him out of my apartment. I went, "You leave me alone. Don't come back because you're mean."
So
yeah.
Do you think that, and again, you're right when you said that you can't speak for the general populace, but do you think that Marvel would, on the whole, probably sell more units per issue if, per product, per issue, if they were to just slash the prices?
I think that at least for a couple months it would be worth doing. I mean, I think that's probably why DC did it, dropped it to $2.99, and then raised it back up.
Well, but they didn't raise it back up. That's the thing, is that only a couple of their books cost $3.99, and most of them have higher page counts.
Oh, yeah.
Really, the only one that anybody correct me if I'm wrong on this, if I just didn't catch anything. I only know of a couple books that are $3.99 for DC right now. One of them is Justice League, and it is the regular page count. And I think it's that, and again, I wish they would have stuck with their We Draw the Line thing, because that only lasted 3-4 months. But I think they're doing that because they know it'll sell, and it's Jim Lee drawn it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Men of War's $3.99.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Because I think Action Comics, I think that's $3.99.
You're right. It is too. Nope, you're right. And I don't think it's a higher page count. You're right about that. But the only other one I can think of that has been $3.99 so far is All-Star Western, and it is a higher page count. That first issue was like 30 pages.
That's a fairly thick book. But
and understand that before the relaunch, they would price things $3.99 or $4.99 if they were higher page counts.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's fair to price a product higher because it costs more to make.
Yeah, exactly. Naturally.
So that's fair, but part of the deal is that I buy mostly Marvel, and I read a lot of the New 52 when it came out, and the ones that are interested in, I stayed for a couple issues and lost interest.
Right.
So I'm only actually collecting 252 titles, and that's Aquaman and Batwoman.
But you don't have a giant pull list as it is.
No, not really. But I guess
I mean, I've probably stuck with maybe 7 or 8.
I think that people get a little afraid that Marvel's canceling books.
Mm-hmm.
That means everything's gone forever, and that means that they're good.
And that means they're not going to publish anymore like new stuff that you haven't necessarily heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're not necessarily like, let's get that out of there so we can do this. But at some point they're going to go back to it and say, well, let's put something else out there. So they canceled X-22 or X-23 rather.
Yeah.
But maybe that book's gone. But then here comes another book. They're going to publish something that's not one of the core titles.
But they're not necessarily going to put her in something that stays monthly, and that's what the fans are for. Also, the other thing you got to remember is that a lot of people read for writers and artists and not necessarily for characters. Yeah. So whenever you cancel a book like that, you're either moving that writer or he's not going to be writing anything for you anymore. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing to consider, of course. I just want to throw that out there. And that means that if it's getting canceled prematurely, that writer probably is not getting a chance to wrap up their arc.
Yeah.
And if they're writing a book, a book that they intended at some point to cancel or not another writer was ever going to come onto it, you're talking they never got a chance to have a last issue. That for hardcore readers of particular books is like a TV show not getting a last episode. That's rough for people, I mean, imagine if your favorite TV show that's not on anymore that had major arcs and was, like Angel, you know what I mean? Like it didn't get a proper last episode, ended prematurely, and they had to wrap things up quicker than they planned. That's never fun. You know what I mean? None of us like that to happen, and so that's what people get riled up about with this sort of thing.
Yeah, I know they didn't get a proper last episode because when it ended in season 2, it just wasn't satisfying for me. I refuse to acknowledge that the other seasons exist.
Of what?
Angel.
Of Angel? Yeah. 3's good.
3's okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, anyway. But 5 is really good. I don't know.
I was okay with 5, but, past 4, I mean, it just doesn't really get back for me. 5's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of goes to a somewhat different premise, which shows have a tendency to do. But, well, anyway.
The puppet one was pretty good.
Yeah. But that's all anybody talks about from 5. There are other good episodes in 5.
Anyway,
there's you're not even bringing up the Mountain Dew chalice. You cannot bring up season 5 without the Mountain Dew chalice. Anyway, because that thing's awesome. I don't know why we're talking about that. Well, any final thoughts, Vince? I've got other places I could go with this, but we're coming up on a half hour, so we should probably jump over. I'm sorry, I just asked you this, but let me say this really quick. I'm sorry. I just think that that I kind of get why people are a little bit worried about it, just because this all happened at the same time as the 52, and I really think that that Marvel's, if nothing else, their marketing strategy is way different than DC's. DC is like, we're gonna see if we can do okay with stuff nobody's ever heard of before, and stuff that like people that like not all their stuff is geared into Justice League. They've got New 52 books that don't seem like they even necessarily have anything to do with the continuity. And then you go to Marvel and it's all Avengers and it's all, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, I think Marvel is doing things that are mainly connected to their movies and what sells. And it's I suppose it's fair to expect a business to move towards what sells, but I think it's an error in judgment to think that they're not going to publish anything else at all. I think that they will publish stuff that's not that, maybe not in as much quantity as you would like it, but. And also, I think it might be important to say that it feels like Marvel is making its moves without considering what DC's doing. So
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think you're probably right about that. I think maybe they've decided, we're just going to ignore that, and I'm not sure that was the right move. I'm not saying that they should have done something similar, and I'm not saying that they should have gone nuts, but I think a few more number ones would have been smart. And I don't mean starting numbers over. I mean new books.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because I really think that it was. Well, I'm not sure that doing Incredible Hulk, starting that book over and stuff like that had anything to do with the 52. I think they probably had that in the pipeline already.
I feel like their Ultimate stuff may have had something to do with 52. Maybe.
I don't know, man. I mean, they
were already gearing up for the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, and the thing about it is really hard to tell how long DC had been planning that, because it did seem to come out of nowhere. And I mean, there was a lot of talk of, well, they sure had that under their hats, but then the way they had to cancel books real quick, it was almost like it all happened really quick, too. Yeah. And so the question is, how long were they planning it, and how long did anyone at Marvel know about it? And I just don't think there's any way to know that.
It's kind of a strange thing. I mean, maybe Marvel's kind of expecting some of their number ones to sell because of the New 52. The 5 that they put out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the ones that they did were good moves, but again, but I'm in the camp that says you don't have to renumber everything just because you have a new writer or a new arc. You know what I'm saying? Jason Aaron on Incredible Hulk. Did we have to start that at number 1? Did we have to jump Captain America into his own series and then rename the regular Cap series Captain America and Bucky and keep it at the same numbering system? Because that's not confusing for collectors, especially if they ever change Cap and Bucky to something else. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, with what they're doing with Bucky right now, after Fear Itself, I gotta kind of wonder how long they're going to be able to keep that title. Surely they're not going to keep telling stories from World War II the whole time. Well, anyway.
No, that's fair. we are almost out of time.
Yeah, we're almost out of time. Let's go ahead and go to rants. Go ahead, Vance. What's your rant?
All right. Because I am who I am, I'm going to rant about food again. But
hold on, I'm going to go eat something.
You get back here! No. Anyway, I think it's weird that people out there think because something's good for me in some way, I can eat as much of it as I want. That is a problem. Like, what goes through your mind that thinks, oh, whole wheat is healthy, so therefore I can eat as much as I want? No. Whole wheat is still carbohydrates. It's bread. All breads, all grains, all starches. These things are carbohydrates. Just because it's whole wheat doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a carbohydrate. Now, you can make carbless bread, but it's pretty nasty. And I don't recommend eating it. I've never tried it, but I've heard secondhand accounts. They're like, oh, God, this is awful. Why did you do this? But, yeah, olive oil is good for you. It has health benefits. You can eat olive oil, and it can actually help you lose weight. But if you are deep frying things in olive oil, you're going to gain weight. Because you're still adding a lot of fat to your food when you use a lot of this stuff. You're still eating carb. You're still eating fat just because something has nutrients included in it. Just because a rock has a lot of minerals doesn't mean you should go out there and eat gravel. Do a little research and don't just trust it just because it says it's healthy. Like, for example, Twizzlers, a candy, is advertised as a low-fat food. Well, calling it food is debatable. But calling it low-fat is true. It doesn't have much fat in it, but guess what it does have? Sugar. And if you eat sugar and if you eat fat in larger quantities, you gain weight. I'm not saying you can't eat these things, but everything in moderation. Just because it says it's healthy doesn't mean that it's not fattening.
Yeah, and everything in moderation. The idea with healthy food is that it's healthier to eat it instead of something that's, wholly unhealthy. That doesn't mean you can eat as much of it as you would have eaten the wholly unhealthy thing.
Yeah. Like, oh man, that Snickers bar looks really good, but eating like 20 apples sounds really good
Just
too.
Just because you're supposed to have iron in your diet doesn't mean that while you're pumping iron, you should also eat the same iron.
Pineapple's a fruit. It's not necessarily bad for you, but guess what? It's high in sugar too. I mean, you got to keep in mind these things. And I feel weird when I have conversations with people and they say, but I thought that was healthy. It is healthy. But don't be a rube. Don't let those advertisers get you and make you just eat lots of their stuff because it says it's healthy.
Yeah. Well, Vince, is what you're saying that most of the people who get really overweight, it's because they eat too much. It's not even necessarily about what they're eating. Maybe they get overweight faster because they're eating too much of something they shouldn't be eating. You know what I mean?
think that's what it is.
Like, if I eat too much lettuce, I probably won't get as fat as fast as if I eat too many Twinkies. But
well, that's the thing.
What?
Is that if you eat a lot of lettuce, the chances of you getting fat are pretty much nil.
Oh, okay.
But it's if you're eating your greens, like if you're eating a lot of celery, you're not going to gain weight.
I meant with Thousand Island dressing on it.
Well, you're right there. See, lettuce is good for her. Salad is good for me. Yeah, but if you put lots of sugar and fat on top of your salad, of course you're going to gain weight. I mean, it's just knowing what is out there. I'm not saying that you or anybody have to have the perfect diet. You can eat fried things. I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah. This has suddenly turned into a totally different kind of show, hasn't it?
All I'm saying is that just because somebody says it's healthy doesn't mean that you can eat as much of it as you want. And whenever I meet health nuts, they're like, oh, you can eat as much of it as you want. It's totally fat-free. Oh, yeah? How do you make it? Well, first of all, you add a gallon of olive oil, and then you put salt in there, totally fat-free. Like, that makes no sense. How can you put fat on fat and then tell me it's fat-free?
A piece of advice I heard recently that I like and I would give is how people sometimes complain that that at restaurants there are always way too big of portions? I would say, which is, largely true.
Usually that's not a complaint. That's usually an attribute people apply to them.
Well, no, but I hear from people all the time. Geez, I got all this food on my plate. I can't eat all this. You know what I mean? When that happens, I think people should go to restaurants with the intention to bring some of it home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like don't gorge yourself just because because you feel like you spent too much. It's like if it heats up well, it's still food. You you didn't waste your money as long as you put it in a box and take it home with you and eat it tomorrow.
Yeah, you spent $10-15 on a meal. Guess what? You spent $5 on a meal, and you spent $5 on the meal the next day.
For the meal you're gonna have the next day. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily eat all of it. It's not like the manager's in the back watching to make sure you eat all of his food because he's gonna get upset with you if you didn't finish it.
I mean, I think there are some restaurant etiquette things where if you put salt or pepper on it, you're insulting the chef. But if you're going to the little
if
shop
they have
down the
boxes
street,
in the back, it's okay to take one.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask for one and they go, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have asked, but I guarantee it'll be okay. I mean, food is not a conquest. You should not you should not think that finishing your food is any marker of prestige.
I have that problem. I won't actually. Sometimes I'll go to a restaurant and you know me, I'm a small guy, so it is very often too much of a portion for me, and so I'll go to a restaurant and there's actually a sandwich shop where I go and get the kid sandwich because I can't eat the big sandwich. Because their kid sandwich is half a sandwich anyway. So So when I go to restaurants, a lot of the time I'm not even thinking about like, you know, am I full now? I just go, there's more on my plate, I should eat that, and I just subconsciously I don't even think about it. So,
I think we all do that.
When I leave the restaurant, I'm like about to blow up, and I'm like, but you shouldn't do that. You should take some with you anyway.
Yeah, I'm that way at Mexican restaurants. I'm like, oh,
that's
there's
just what
more.
I was thinking when I said that.
Like, oh, and they brought me more chips and salsa. Well, I can't let that go to waste. But yeah, so what's your rant, Cap?
I kind of like your rant.
It's like we've ranted together.
I'm going to do this really quick, but my rant is take some of it with you when you go to a restaurant. No,
you can't take it with you,
Vince. When I was a kid, and I would have friends over to play video games. Or I'd have like my siblings were watching me play a video game or something. We had a kid that was younger than you watching you play a video game. When I was a kid, it seemed like the first question that always came up is it 2-player?
Yeah.
It's like everybody always wanted to know if you could play it at the same time. Why is that not cool anymore? Why is it that so many video games these days are made for single player or online multiplayer? Why is it not cool to have parties and play video games anymore? Like, the selling point of the N64 was you can plug 4 controllers into it. Like, that was one of the big giant selling points. And how many games did they make that had really cool 4-player split-screen multiplayer? Tons of them. That was most of the best games on that. Mario Kart, 007, you know, like the games that people really remember, a lot of them were 4-player multiplayer. I'm not saying that everything ought to be multiplayer. I'm just saying that, like, there is a strange dearth of that, of multiplayer on one system where, like, I like to invite somebody over and play video games, but, well, it's going to be party games. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like there's plenty of it for Nintendo, but, you know, you go over to the other systems and maybe maybe like motion games now with the new motion sensor stuff, but not a lot of traditional stuff like. You know, and honestly, I think this has affected certain subgenres of video games because what was cool about fighting games? Playing with a buddy. Fighting games weren't fun playing by yourself, one player. That's not why we played fighting games. We
liked it a lot.
Well, I did it, but I mean, I played a lot more with my brother and sister and with my dad. You know, so I think that. Most of the games that I like were arcade-type games. I mean, that was always my kind of thing. And I think that's really kind of going the way of the dinosaurs because playing online is a much bigger thing, and people online seem to not like those kind of games as much. They seem to want more complicated things that they can play with other people online, but not necessarily with somebody sitting next to them. I don't know. To me, like, video games are more fun as a party thing with people, or one player by myself. And understand, I could never get into the online thing. It just was never my bag. But anyway, I don't know. I'm just not sure why 2-player games is not cool. 2-player, 4-player game, not fun. It's not cool anymore. I don't know.
That's a good point. And the main reason I say that's a terrific point is why would you have a multiplayer online and not have a 2-player mode on your game?
That's what I think.
Somebody came through the other day and was saying, hey, can you help me find a 2-player game? And I said, yes, I can. And I couldn't help them.
Yep.
Because everything was either 1 player. And I picked up one that said multiplayer, online, 1 player by itself. I'm like, why would you make that?
Yep.
You can't split the screen? You can't do that? Why not?
Yeah. And and it seems like there's just not as much of a market for it anymore. It seems like the hardcore gamers just don't care about that.
It's bizarre to me. I don't know. I don't get it. I guess it's either got to be Rock Band or Mario Party.
Yeah, or, you know, remakes upon remakes of games that we would play when we were kids. I mean, like, you know, the fighting game franchises, I mean, like, they're not making new fighting game franchises. They just keep remaking all the old stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's going on now. Well, anyway.
Although, they could make 1 million Marvel vs. Capcoms, and I would love everyone.
Ooh, not me. I didn't like the new one all that much.
I haven't gotten a chance to play it, actually. But
yeah, you might not say that after you play it.
Oh, crap.
It's a little... It's a little different, and well, we'll talk about that after we stop recording because we're kind of out of time. We're actually way out of time. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening to Geeks.Nerds, the podcast, and join us once again in 2 weeks for another podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
We'll see you next time.